FTF Radio. This is your host, Tru. We're back. I'm excited to be here. Thank you all for tuning in. Here with some very special guests. I'm excited about the show today. We've got Dee from KITFO TV, and we've got Salem from Cushy Collective joining us today for FTF Conversations. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Thank you, Tru, for having us here today. As Tru said, I'm Dee, and I am founder and CEO of KITFO TV, which is a streaming platform for first-generation Ethiopian and Eritrean creatives, and we're launching later this year.
I'm Salem. I'm the founder of Cushy Collective, and we've been around for about a year. It's an arts org that's centered in Pan-African collaboration, just like creating opportunities and spaces for Pan-African artists and artists from the diaspora to get together, collaborate, showcase their work, and just build community.
Talk about being the community, creating community. I've been really fascinated by what I've been seeing so far. I've been to a few Motherland Sounds. I've been to and a part of a few Cushy Collective events. I've been hearing a lot about KITFO TV and everything happening. And right now you're in the middle of an open call for all these across a multidisciplinary scope of artists. Can you tell me about what's going on with that and where did that come about? What all is this leading to?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, KITFO TV, we're a streaming platform, and leading up to the launch of the platform, we've been doing several different events. We did a masterclass with Ozzy Tesfaye at Noy House, and we're doing a film festival later this year in September. And, with that, it's very community-centered. So we've been reaching out to community organizations, partners, people who are doing things that are aligned with the vision of pushing East African creatives. And so from that, I have been following Cushy Collective for quite some time and reached out about the film festival, and that brought about this event that, we started working on, and It turned into this. So I'll let Salem kind of take over on that.
Yeah, it was kind of like Kismet because we met for coffee to talk about this film festival idea and just started ideating about so many other things. I think there's a lot of overlap between our missions. So it's kind of inevitable. I'm really glad we connected the way we did. And I was at that Noy House event too. So everything's just like full circle. But yeah, so as far as Nuit Noir, it is a summer series. And the whole concept is really just to have, it's kind of like part creative salon, part showcase, part happy hour vibes. So
we love happy hour.
Right? Necessary. So it'll be a good time. But let's see, we have film screenings, short film screenings. We have a small art exhibit where we'll be featuring a couple of artists from the community, and then also a spoken word component that is more so centered in like written work. So essays, open letters, written poems. Am I forgetting anything?
Yeah, we're doing poetry. That's pretty much it, I think. Yeah.
Now, something I'm immediately wondering, like for both of you, why is it so important to be uplifting and highlighting East African artists right now, especially?
I think there's a lot of attention being placed on Africa right now. You see Afrobeats in Nigeria. You see even Nollywood and the films that they're exporting. You see South Africa, Amapiano, and the South African film industry. And it's been proven to be highly successful, especially in the Western world. And we consume Afrobeats and Amapiano like crazy. But despite Ethiopia being the second largest populated country in Africa, we don't get that same representation or visibility.
That's right, it's the second largest.
It's massive. Yeah. The African Union, there's like so many things about it historically. We're constantly talking about Ethiopia as one of the oldest Christian nations in the world. We talk about Aksum and the empires, and we talk about, oh my God, Jah and Haile Selassie, and, even down to reggae culture and Rastafari. It's just, we have so much influence in culture, yet no one looks at us outside of that when it comes to mainstream culture.
Right.
And we're starting to see it trending like on TikTok with Ethio Jazz and the Skista dance challenge over like this hip hop stuff. And so there's an interest in it. But But it's time for us to start taking advantage of that as East Africans and putting ourselves out there and highlighting what we have to offer outside of that.
Getting in front of that narrative and reclamation of it, you know, I love that. I've never looked at it. Not never. I'm recently starting to look at a lot of music from a sense of geography, topography. You know, it's a conversation that's been going on in the past. Definitely, like just when you look at LA, so many different sounds just from where you're at. When you just broke that down, you know, just the Afro beats and the Amapiano. It's like, yeah. And when it comes to films, like for you, I know like you've had a few talks with just this year alone. And I think that's how we had connected, just from following and just connecting around your diaspora talks. Where did that come from? How does that, for you, feel like you're able to, you know, contribute to storytelling and narrative when it comes to East African stories?
So I feel like what inspired me to start that is kind of like the other side. Like, I feel like Dee and I are like two sides of the same coin. So whereas like Dee, you're spotlighting East Africa, I'm bringing kind of like my own experience of growing up in that culture and wanting to connect other Black cultures, like global Black cultures. And I think, so basically I was born and raised in the States, moved to Ethiopia when I was like 10, and then grew up there until I was like in high school. So that was like very interesting because I was always an outsider. Like here I was like, oh, you're not really Black, like you're different. And then there it's like, oh, well, you're like not Ethiopian, you're American. So I think I just had a lot of like time to think about identity and Blackness and what is Blackness, right? Like, I think there's different definitions around that, especially like even this discourse about like Tyla and, you know what I mean? There's just so many different perspectives on it depending on what part of the world you come from. And I just think like film is a medium that really like transcends language and culture. So I think that's a great place to start having these conversations and thinking about, you know, how do we come together as the diaspora, and just find ways to unite, because really I think there's a lot of emphasis on white supremacy, but like very little conversation around like diaspora wars or the division within the diaspora. And really it's like the key like strategy that is used is like divide and conquer. So if we can overcome that, I think we could overcome everything else.
That's so interesting. When it comes to imagery and like films especially, there is such a powerful way to highlight those through lines and like connect where all these stories are coming from. What are some of those films like right now? I guess to jump ahead to this film screening coming up, I was doing some research on what these films were, and I'm now thinking about that. Like, were you thinking about that as you were doing the programming for this upcoming series? Was that a conversation? How do you connect both sides of the coin, both sides of your experiences and your visions for kind of cultivating community and storytelling? Was that ever a part of it?
I think we kind of did that with the themes.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Was it intentionally? I don't know.
Sometimes things do just end up that way.
Yeah, I think it naturally turned into that, but I don't know if we intentionally were trying to do that. But with the themes, though, we did want to... I'm going to let you take this one.
Okay, so I agree with what you said. It was very natural, and I think it was organic because just like what drives us is like kind of like aligned in that way. Dee had this really great idea of like maybe we should have a theme for each event, like for each night. So we went with artists from, I guess, are they all from the continent? I think they are. Miriam Makeba, Chinua Achebe, and Haile Garima.
Yeah.
So they're all from the continent, yeah. But, you know, Chinua Achebe is a writer.
Is he from the continent?
Yeah. He's Nigerian.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well,
bad.
Just a coincidence. But yeah, we have a writer, a filmmaker, and a musician.
Nice. That's what was so interesting. It's like all these different sides of the creative spectrum.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, it It was very organic. Like we didn't we weren't like super methodical about it. We just were like, this feels right.
Yeah.
And then what about the idea to have, I'm really interested in just your appreciation around written form essays. I think that's something that gets so overlooked now, like especially when we're talking about this, we're in an information age and everybody does have access to all these cultures and all these stories, TikTok, Instagram, Reels. I find it important to have context sometimes, and that's where like a lot of the long form reading comes in. So what came with the decision to include written form essays in this as well?
I think we really just wanted to make it multidisciplinary and covering all grounds, because I think what you just said, that is kind of something that is overlooked. I know there's like a lot of open mics and people do like poetry, but you don't necessarily see other forms of written content in a way that you can explore things maybe in an academic way or in a more like prolific way, I think, outside of poetry. I mean, poetry is great, don't get me wrong, but in a way that allows you to identify, interpret, and like form like your own thesis or something and explore what it is that we're seeing in real time now. I don't see that often, so I thought that was cool to have that.
Yeah, I think this is like the era of Substacks, you know, like people have a lot to say. There's just a lot of stuff happening in the world. Yeah. And I've also just like gone to events and met people who are like, yeah, I write essays, and it's like there's really no venue for that. So yeah, we just wanted to approach it kind of from like a different perspective as far as the open mics. Yeah,
that's fire. When it comes to your shared, I guess, a love for filmmaking, I can call it, you know, wanting to get into a streaming platform, creating conversation, being a filmmaker, what are the ways that you both see yourself using film, you know, kind of as your, for lack of a better term, weapon of choice to, you know, communicate these ideas? Like, how are the ways that you really, you know, like to utilize film?
Well, what's funny is I don't come from a film background. Prior to this, I never really saw myself going into film. Wow. My background's in music.
Wow.
So with another platform I have, 2591 Worldwide, that's always been music-centered primarily, just because that's something I'm very familiar with. But even that platform is a media company that was meant to highlight creatives from the Ethiopian-Eritrean diaspora all around. And then, so KITFO TV is a subsidiary under 2591. So it's a component that allows us to focus on film specifically.
Nice.
But even that came about because I was doing a panel last year that was particularly about film and TV. And in doing research on the film and TV industry here and in Ethiopia, I realized that there wasn't a space for representation for Ethiopian and Eritrean actors. So obviously, like, the biggest issues with filmmakers and creatives in general is always funding and distribution. I was like, maybe I can't do the funding part because I don't have the funds, and that at least not that much.
Absolutely.
But I was like, maybe I could do something about distribution and create a platform where our stories are being told and archived, but also you have an audience that's specifically looking for that content. And then you can create a platform that offers that. So that's how I got into it. It was really out of a passion for just seeing Ethiopian and Eritrean creatives do well and have a space that they can share their artwork with people that are similar to them. So yeah, that's really where that came from. Film isn't.
That's dope though, like from music and I mean, the parallels run deep. You know what I'm saying? So it's dope to have that that transition and be able to connect the two worlds in a way that feels organic, and it's like still sustaining what you already saw.
For sure. And also going back to what you said, I think film is just an important medium in general. I think music is great, but then to also actually be able to see real life representation, see it on the screens, to be able to reflect on the times and to be able to portray that in a certain way that can cross different mediums and incorporate different mediums too, right? You can incorporate animation, you can incorporate the music, you can incorporate all these different things into this visual. So yeah, I think itself, the medium is super important. But yeah. I'll pass that on to you.
Yeah, I did just see like an interesting fact that was like even more people listen to music with video than listening to music. Like most people listen to music on YouTube because you can watch.
And then also when you listen to music with the visual, it also sometimes gives you a different perspective on the music when you attach it to a visual. And yeah, I think film is able to give people that different perspective that normally they wouldn't get if it was just left to imagination. It's something that they can visually see.
Right. It's all feeding each other. I love film for that reason. It's like, dang, you can just see everything. You can see all elements of everything. You mentioned archiving, which is interesting. That's something that I really do. I've always I'm talking to Salem often about this, like archiving the talks too that you're doing. What's your connection to film is in the same aspect? Just when you were thinking about early beginnings of Cushy Collective programming, what you saw for yourself, especially as a director and producer, you're wearing many hats. How do you find that North Star? What's inspiring you to keep going a lot of those times?
What's interesting is like the first time I thought of what is now Cushy Collective, it was before we had like Black Panther or Insecure or like all this Black representation we have like post BLM. And I don't know, I guess I just felt like I know I have like a different perspective that I want to share with the world, and I know I'm not the only one.
What is that perspective?
Well, it's just like my own story. Like you have your story. And I think really good storytelling is like when you just share what you know, because no one can replicate that. So, there's like a lot of conversation around authentic storytelling, and that word gets used a lot, authentic specifically. But yeah, I think just like being true to yourself is like a big part of being an honest artist, and also creating for yourself and not creating for the audience first. The audience will come because they're attracted to what you have to say. So, and then with Cushy Collective, it was like, okay, there's like the filmmaking side as far as like if I had a production company, but I also want there to be like a more like educational side, or like being able to facilitate people's like dreams and ambitions. And like, I don't see myself as like, oh, I'm here to help you. It's like, let's just like pool our resources together and help each other. And maybe I'm just the first person to show up to that meeting. You know what I mean? So that's really kind of like where it started. And it's funny because something I've like been learning since Cushy Collective has started is that it's not like the people that you're already friends with that will necessarily show up. It's going to be the people that like the mission attracts, and it's going to be a whole different group of people. So just trusting that process also has been really important. Did I answer your question though?
Yeah, and I mean, you also.
Amen to that though. Yeah, that's real.
No facts. Community. I mean, you almost made me jump ahead, but I wanna stay on storytelling just briefly. I love that. Like, I think that's something that does come up often. Authentic storytelling in many facets. Like, what is that for you? What does that mean for you? Like how and it could be your own. Just I'm curious because you touched on it and it's so real. I think. Storytelling is so important, like, just in general. And I guess sometimes it's easy to forget that art is essentially a huge part of that is having a story to tell. So what does that mean for you to just authentic storytelling? Like,
this is such a loaded question.
Hey, we got time.
I feel led to start with this idea of like in Ethiopian culture, growing up as kids, like, we'll do this thing where like you'll gather around like an adult, like a parent or an uncle or something, and they'll say tarat tarat, and then you say yalam barat. So like it's like a call and response, but tarat is like a tale. So you're asking for a tale.
What's the phrase?
Tarat tarat. Yeah. So you're asking for a tale to be told, and they start to like tell a story, and they're like making it up. They're improvising the story. But there's just like this ongoing call and response that's happening, which I think is really interesting now as a storyteller and as a filmmaker. But that to me is just like proof that stories are so important to our existence as humans, whether you look at religion, philosophy, like, parables, like whatever it is, there's what are they called? Okay, I'm drawing a blank. I was thinking of Anansi the spider. But
The proverbs or the African folklore.
Fables.
Folklore and fables, yeah.
Yeah. Just like stories are like how we learn. It's how we process our existence and like our experience as humans.
I love it. Now I see the spider. That's a good one. That's like a great one.
I don't know why that was what came to my mind.
That's a great one.
But so I think authentic storytelling, to go back to your question, is honestly just like the thing you're craving to see in the world that you don't necessarily see yet. And growing up, we probably all had our version of that. And then you're like, you know what? I have something to say that I don't see, like being distributed or like being, shared in any way right now. So I think it's just, like I said, it's just being true to yourself and like what you have to say and bring into the world.
It's very real. I love how you phrase that too. You said authentic storytelling. Oh, I can't wait to rewind that. That was just so great. Like knowing like I have something to offer. Like a huge thing, like I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. I'm like always thinking about my siblings. I'm like, it's wild seeing them grow up. And it's like, yo, y'all have perspectives. You know what I'm saying? Like I look at just the younger generation coming up like that all the time. Like anytime it's like, we the X-Men. Everybody got a little 2 cents to put in there. Yeah, that's dope. So what are some of your favorite stories? You both have roots in East Africa. What are some of those East African stories that were told as youngins? Like, what were y'all hearing? Like, for me, I heard about Tata Duhendi. Like, that was like a Belizean story. Like, it was like, he come around, man missing a thumb. He come and spook you out when you sleep. Like, he start missing teeth and, he's stealing stuff. This is a crazy story. But, yeah, what are some of those, like, folklores? Like, just from...
I want to say ours have like animals, like they're like lions and hyenas and monkeys and yeah, right?
Like
From what I've heard, yeah. But to be honest, I actually didn't grow up being told any of those. Like my parents didn't give me that. Yeah. So that's exactly why I'm creating this platform, because I want to archive these stories so that my kids can have that, and create them in animations and whatever it may be. Because I honestly don't know them, and I hate saying that, but I don't. So
that's something I feel like as first gen as well. It's like there's so much that I engage with now. It's like, wow, why did I know about this then? Yeah. And that's also something that like becomes a little bit of like that. It's been real inspiring too. Like it's so wild. Like so much that's just like I'll run into just like, friends of mine who like I feel like I spent time in Belize, but it's like there's all different type, there's different parts of it that I've never seen. There's stories I haven't heard. There's food I haven't tried. I'm like, and being first gen, I always do think about that. Like, what is my authentic, like, story to tell, even in that manner too? And sometimes I don't have the story, like, so, but that is the story too. Like, and I think that's why it's really cool that you started with that. It's like we're kind of on both sides of the coin here. You're representing like 2 experiences that are very real for, I'm sure, a lot of people who relate to your experiences and identify as East African. What are some of those like early experiences you both had as creatives that kind of, shifted your work to be focused on identity and explore your identity and upbringing and background?
That's a good one.
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first on that.
So I think for me, going back to this idea of just like being like straddling like 2 different cultures or worlds and like not necessarily fitting in one of them like neatly. And at first, I'd feel like an outsider in a lot of ways. But I think as I got older, actually it was when I was writing my college essay.
Wow, we love that.
But yeah, and I think I just like really meditating on it was able to kind of shift my perspective and look at that as like a superpower. Like, wait, I can bridge gaps though. And I've seen in my own family how movies especially are just such a great way to like demonstrate concepts that they might not understand if you like try to verbalize it or so I can like show them a movie and be like, yeah, that's the thing I'm trying to explain to you about my own experience.
That's it.
Yeah. So, and there's one movie in particular that I think just like made me and my parents understand each other so much more. And that's The Namesake, which is based on a book. It's really about, it's an Indian family, like the parents like immigrate to America, and then we also follow their children's stories into adulthood as first-gen Americans.
Wow, that's dope.
And
I might need that.
Yeah, gotta have to check it. I'm like, hey, we're gonna have to tap in with
that movie. That movie, I was like, yo, this shit is powerful. That's like, because if it can make me understand my parents like that and appreciate them like that, like, there's a lot of understanding and empathy and I don't even want to say tolerance, but just because that's not even like enough, but just making room for other people's experiences and like just having a heart for like just to like really embrace the fact that I don't know how you feel all the time, but like I can just like make space for you and like empathize as much as I can, you know? I think that is truly like the power of film.
That's like about to make me all like, that was like so warm.
Getting misty-eyed over there.
Like, it's so warm. It's so real too. Yeah, what about you, Dee?
Can you remind me what the question was? I was like really wrapped up in the response.
No, right. What were some of what was an early experience you could think of that shifted your work toward the focus of your work or around to be around community identity and upbringing, or maybe your work had always explored identity and belonging, but just curious if there was maybe an experience that kind of said, oh, this what we on? What's over here?
Yeah. I don't know if it was one singular thing, but before I started 2591 Worldwide, I was part of, so a friend who wasn't a friend then, I just randomly saw it on Instagram. She had started a platform called Habesha LA, and it was kind of like one of the very first blogs or publications that kind of covered creatives in the diaspora. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this. Like, this is incredible. Right. Like, you know, like I hadn't really grown up with Ethiopians like that. I didn't really have that kind of community. So growing up, I kind of was longing for that. And I kind of thought I was like the only Ethiopian creative in the world. Like, you know, it wasn't something that like our parents were always like, no, we don't do that. So I was like, oh, I'm just this oddball, I guess. And so when I saw that there was others, I was just like, wow, this is great. And I want to keep doing this. And so we started producing events, and that fell apart after some time, but it inspired me to continue doing that and wanting to provide different types of events and experiences within the community. And that's been almost 10 years in the works, and wow. It's culminated into like Motherland Sounds now and all the things that we're doing, and Hollywood is Habesha and this film festival and all of that. So I think just being part of that and experiencing that kind of shifted my whole worldview about everything, that I'm Absolutely. Not the only one, and that there is a community to be found, because if I feel like I'm the only one, that there's others that feel like that. And if we were to bring them together, and like, what if we even collaborated together, and what if we even worked on like projects together inspired by how we felt about being isolated or creatives or whatever, and this experience that we feel is uniquely ours. And I don't know, I just felt like something could come from that, whether that's film, that's music, whatever. And I've been saying that, you know, like I said, 10 years in the making, but I'm now finally saying that, of seeing artists collaborate who meet off the platform. And now they're creating like really cool, like Ethiopian inspired fusions. And it's like creating this wave. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so dope. And so I hope to see that with film too, with the streaming platform, that collaborations will come out of it through the events and whatever it may be. But yeah, that really inspired that, just those early events and that early platform. So shout out to Habesha LA, because I probably wouldn't be doing all this if it wasn't for that.
Hey, shout out for real, community. And you touched on something too, like, I mean, there's things that were both of you mentioned, but you said that something fell off after a while, not defining anything. But the question had crossed my mind, how do you both deal with failure?
Oh, I embrace it now. I get so excited when I fail, because I know it's just getting me one step closer to an actual win. Yeah. I failed so many times over the years, over several projects, and I used to take that as like, oh my gosh, I can never do this. I will not do this. I failed. Yeah. But now I'm just like, damn, well, that didn't work. And history has shown me that when it doesn't work, something will work. Something new will come up, or I learned something from it that'll inspire the next thing. And we're getting close to some wins, y'all. So yeah. I love to fail. I love to fail, because it will get me to that win. So facts. I'm excited about it now.
Yeah, facts. It'd be like that. Yeah. It's like, it's like, hey, yo, it's like we failing a few times a day. Like, it's like if you're not doing that, you're not trying hard enough, right?
It's like, what are you doing?
I love that you said I love to fail, because like you truly have to embrace it. I think early on as a filmmaker, and then also with Cushy Collective, because events was like another beast for me. I'm like, I could produce a movie for you, but I was so intimidated by events. And I'm a perfectionist by nature, so failure, that was not an option. But also what was happening is I wasn't doing anything. So yeah, I just got to a point where like I started to embrace that philosophy, and it's been a game changer. And also like no one's keeping track of your failures. Like literally no one knows. Like nobody knows. When there's been a few times where I'm like, there have been like more than like a slight hiccup happen at certain like events, and I'm like, wait, so everyone's still super excited. No one cares. Right. People are asking when the next one is, so mission accomplished.
Right.
And yeah, like I learned from that failure, and I'm like, okay, I can make this better next time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it feels inevitable for when you're creating things that haven't been seen before too, and it's like all you're doing is it feels like chiseling at this invisible but so clear idea. And I don't know, I feel that. Yeah, I feel recently like failures become real exciting, because at least it's like, all right, I know it was working. You know, it's not. There's more than that. But we're arriving at something. I think that's, you said it too. It's like we're superheroes. I call us the X-Men. Like we're artists. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got like a little secret thing. I always felt like the oddball, just like, yo, like what you doing over here making beats in the back of a classroom? We supposed to be learning biology. Like it's like, it's all these things that make sense long down the line. And I'm learning that's just so why reflection is important too. What are some of those habits and routines that y'all have to keep yourself on to just stay in reflection and like stay on point? Like what are y'all doing to just like, all right, this is where we at, this is where we going?
Yeah. I would say kind of like on a daily routine, journaling and prayer for sure. My faith is like my North Star. And I think like we've talked about like God ideas. I can like sense when something is like bigger than me. Like if I have an idea and I'm like, this is bigger than me, I'm just like literally a vessel being used right now. It's not about me. It's like the ego is removed from that process. But I have to be constantly like in a like my heart posture has to be like in a position of like receiving that. And prayer is such a big part of that. Journaling just kind of helps me to kind of figure out how I'm feeling, because sometimes you don't know until you start writing. And then just like kind of doing check-ins with myself, whether it's like quarterly or like every 6 months, just like reassessing what are my goals, what did I accomplish, what do I need to like tweak or change, or what do I need to like actually not even like engage with anymore.
Hey, that's a big one too. No, one is just.
And like, did I do too much? Do I need to take on less? Like, things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great response. Pretty much what she said. Yeah, a lot of journaling, a lot of prayer for sure. And yeah, a lot of reassessing. I go on a lot of walks every single day. It's kind of like my sanity moment every day. Yeah. And during that, even just like on a hourly, okay, maybe not hourly, that's insane, but like on a daily basis, I'm checking in with myself and I'm like, okay, are we on track? Are we wasting time? Are we doing what needs to be done to push that thing that needs to get done, And if not, okay, why are we doing that? Are we doing it because we genuinely need a break so we don't burn out? That's okay. Are we avoiding responsibility because it's such a big task and we don't want to do it? That's not okay. So let's do what needs to be done, and just doing
like
constant check-ins.
Non-judgmental mindfulness.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you can't be too hard on yourself, especially when you're doing a lot of different things. It's so easy to put all that pressure on yourself and wanting to be a perfectionist. I get that, but you don't get anything done when you do that. And I've had to tell myself that repeatedly. So yeah, just constantly checking in with myself and all that. Yeah. That's
fire. Talk about these walks. Like that's been the thing lately for real. Like I don't know. I relate to that. Like, it'd be like, sitting at a computer for most of the work I'm doing sometimes. It's not enough. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm not about to drive to the park or the beach, even though it's right here. It's like that walk will be it just be hitting different. Yeah. How long are you going on walks? Are you hitting like 4 blocks? Are you doing like 5? Are you like 5, 10 minutes? Is it like?
I think it depends on how much time I have. If I have like a good break, I'll go as far as I can. If I got like an hour or two, I'll like go up to like Motherland and maybe like hit a path. And even if I can't go far, I'll just like do 30 minutes of a hike or something and then go back to work. Or if I literally have like 10 minutes, I'll do maybe the 4 blocks. But just being outside and just walking and just breathing the air and looking at the trees and just recentering yourself is everything. So
very, especially, I mean, these views, man, Hollywood, nice. You know what I'm saying? You get a nice little backyard trail, you know, it's nice. You know, you gotta love LA for some parts, you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
You know, I'll be on the south of Wilshire, but every time I come over here, sure enough, I'll be like, yeah, I'm glad I did. I went to Los Feliz last week, and I was on Caldman Drive, you know, that hike in Griffith Park? Yeah. And then I went to the Punch Bowl. You know what the Punch Bowl is?
No, I don't know where that is.
You gotta go to. All right, we going to the Punch Bowl.
Okay.
We should all go to the Punch Bowl. That's like it's like a midway point. Changed my life. I literally am like not doing a hike and not going to the Punch Bowl ever again. It's crazy.
Oh, the Punch Bowl is a hike?
Oh no, the Punch Bowl. Shout out to Punch Bowl. We about to tap in with them. Hey, shout out to Punch Bowl. I had the best smoothie of my life, yo. What, man? I walked in there. I'm not making smoothies the same no more. Every smoothie I made at home has been awful since, like, bought myself some flowers over there. Los Feliz is fire. I was like, it's like, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing over there. Yeah, I see what you're doing. I really, really appreciate both of you and just for being here and sharing your stories. It's been really dope to hear. I want to just take a moment. If there's anything else that y'all want to get off to the people before, especially you got a lot coming up. We got film screenings coming up in July. You got the open call open until this Friday. And then everything else that's going to be coming up. What else are you excited about?
You want to go first?
We got 6 months left in the year. We just getting started.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nuit Noir for sure. The first one's July 5th. Submissions are open until June 21st, so tap in. You can go to @Cushy Collective on IG or www.cushycollective.org/Nuit Noir. And all of the info will be there. As far as other events, Cushy Collective also does some programming with Black Image Center in Culver City. If you're not familiar with Black Image Center, please tap in because they are an amazing community over there as well. Yeah. And that's the Black Cinematheque, which we do monthly-ish. Let's see. I don't know. What else? Those are kind of like the main things happening right now.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to plug Motherland Sounds. If you haven't been, pull up every other Wednesday. Really dope turn up. East African culture, food, vibes, greatest DJs, all that good stuff.
Shout out to that honey wine.
Thank you.
Shout out to that honey wine.
Yes, the honey wine. And then, as I mentioned, the film festival, KITFO TV's film festival is coming up in September. Cushy Collective will be doing a panel as well. So 2-day festival, all the dopest creatives in film, TV, and just arts all around. September at the Miracle in Inglewood.
That's gonna be
Follow
fire.
us on IG. We're at KITFO.TV or check us out on our website, KITFO.TV. But yeah, I think that's all we got for now.
Dang. Definitely send the info for those. We'll be sure to blast all that out. You'll be able to tap in on the page. Everybody tuned in. FTF Radio. We'll see you Thursday. Paper Tiger Bar. Rotate. We are here again with Salem and Dee. This is your host, Tru. FTF Radio. We are out. See you soon. Peace.